Okay, now that we have our frame all made, we actually can start the next process of actually stretching the canvas over the frame. So what you want to do is you want to get some canvas. You can either get pre-gesso canvas or you can get raw canvas. This is raw canvas. It doesn't have any gesso on it, it's just the fabric. You want to cut a piece of this canvas out a couple inches larger on all sides than the frame that you're actually using. And then you actually want to put your frame into the middle of the canvas with the bevel side facing down against the canvas. And then what you're going to do is you're actually going to fold the canvas over on one of the sides. I usually start with the longest side. And then take a staple gun and put a staple right in the middle, like that. And then the next step of what you're going to do is you're going to go to the opposite side and you're going to grab and you're going to pull the canvas tightly, causing this nice pull here, and you're going to put a staple there. And then turn to the other side, grab, pull, and put a staple in. And then do the same thing to the last side. Alright, so then from here on out what you're going to do is, so I have this staple here in the middle, I'm going to grab the canvas and I'm going to pull the canvas slightly away from the staple and then also towards the middle. So we're just pulling it tightly and then put a staple in, and then on the other side of the staple put another one, doing the same thing. Throughout this process, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the opposite side right away. Like that. And like that. And then after you do the two sides, go over here and staple it. Alright, so that's what we're doing. You can stop recording for now. Alright, so now that I have most of the sides done, we have to do the corners. To do the corners, you just simply take it and kind of fold it over, and you're just kind of pulling as tightly as you can while trying to make as a nice, neat corner as you possibly can. And then just simply put a couple staples in. So then you do that to all the different sides. It's kind of like folding your bed. So except this time you don't have your mom yelling at you to do it every day.
I'm glad you said it because I didn't want to.
Alright, so now that you got it all stretched, and you can turn it over and you can see, you can tap it, and if it's like a drum, then you did a good job. And you shouldn't see you shouldn't see any like wrinkles in it, basically. So now that you have your canvas all stretched, you can move on to the gessoing. One thing before you do that, when you're stretching the canvas, you have to be careful that you don't actually pull it too tightly, because when you're gessoing, when the gesso dries on the canvas, it's actually going to pull it a little bit more. So if you overstretch the fabric now, you actually can cause a tear to happen after you gesso it. So just keep that in mind. So stretch it tightly, but not too tightly.
And so this is after stretching of the canvas. This is the gesso. Gesso is typically
This is actually it's a primer.
so this is already a premix. If it's not a premix, it is 3-to-1, 3 parts gesso, 1 part water. Gesso is a limestone base primer, limestone primer. So think of like if you're going to paint your car, you're going to need a good base and use a primer for that. So this is what that is for the canvas. So all you're going to do is your first coat. You want to do about 3 coats. Your first coat is all one direction. The second coat is going to be opposite that direction. And the third coat is going to be back to the original. So I'm going to start off with up and down. Just like so. Obviously you're going to do the entire canvas, and just to save some time, I'm not going to do that. So we're going to let this dry for anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes, depending how thick it is. And then the next coat is going to be left to right. Let that dry 10, 20 minutes, and then you're going to do another, your last third coat, back to the up and down, depending how you do that. So again, this is gonna help solidify that canvas. It's gonna help keep it nice and firm. It's gonna tighten the canvas, and then you're ready to paint after it's all dry.
Why would someone put gesso on their canvas? Like, what is the purpose of it?
Kind of a primer. It stretches out that fabric just a little bit more. So it's sort of it's a good base. It's a good base for the canvas. Glad you asked that question. So individual preference, whether or not you want to do the sides, it's all in the however the artist wants. So if the artist wants that nice fabric feel and look to it, then you just simply won't do it. It's all based on their personal preference. So, any other questions?
What would happen if you were to paint directly on the canvas without gesso? So like you were to just put paint on it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay. Good. Great. So if you don't gesso the canvas and you paint on it, it'll actually bleed. The paint will bleed through the canvas, and eventually it will rot. That's why you do the gesso.
All right.